Hello and welcome back to Co-ople Mode, Couple's Opinion on Gaming. I'm your host, Matt.
And I'm Rose.
And we're here.
And it's new game time.
New game.
Woo! I don't know what it is.
Yeah, you probably have no idea.
No.
Take a shot in the dark.
Oh, God, I have no idea. There's so many out there. How could I take a shot in the dark?
I don't know. You usually like to guess based on what I've been doing lately.
What have you been doing lately?
I don't know. Twiddling my thumbs, setting up this new recording setup.
God, I feel like I've seen you play something and I can't even think of I can't even picture it in my head.
Well, whatever you've seen me play, it's wrong. So
okay, cool. It usually is. I mean, I think there's been one time when I've kind of known.
I've been inspired by our recent bonus episode we recorded with our friends. So we are also going to go back in time to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. I'm going to play a game there.
Oh, that's like every game there.
I know.
I currently have played one game from that.
Yeah.
Goof Troop.
We did a Goof Troop for a bonus episode, and then
that game was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and I am always skewed by my experience because I played a lot of Super Nintendo growing up. One of my favorite systems, but you skip from the regular Nintendo to the 64. So yes. You have like this big gap in gaming knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, why don't I? There's like so many good games in the Super Nintendo that you can play.
Funny story. My dad got a wild hair up his butt and bought a Nintendo Entertainment System one year for Christmas when I was very little and I had an older sibling. And my mom was like not a huge fan.
No. And
was surprised that he did that because they were expensive back then at the time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, anytime a new console came out.
So growing up with that, you know, us kids would get in arguments or whatever sometimes. My mom finally took it away and actually took it away for 10 years. So I didn't have it from the time I was probably like 6 or 7 until she gave it back I was a teenager, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, so we didn't have video games until I was about 10, I think. Mm-hmm. And my brother and sister and I were like, okay, the N64 is out. Our friends have it. We've played it a little bit. Oh my gosh. We worked our butts off. And finally, I think at the time, we were moving and my dad convinced my mom, it'll keep these kids busy and out of our way so we can frickin' pack stuff up. I'm just going to buy it for them because they keep bugging me for things to do to make money.
Yep.
So I learned years later because I worked really, really hard for a while.
Yep.
And years later, I heard the real story where it was like, nah, we just really needed to keep you guys out of our hair for like 2 seconds so that we could get some stuff done. So
please, I'll do stuff. Pay me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to get you the console so you stop asking me to pay you.
I remember my dad literally had me moving bricks from one spot to another like for half a day. I think he might have just been making shit up. I will never know. But that's how I got an N64.
That's amazing.
So yes, that's why I have a gap there.
All right. Well, I'll stop leaving you in suspense, but that is a wonderful story and I love it. We are going to be playing The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Oh.
This has been argued as one of the greatest Zeldas for sure. And definitely it's always on a list of the greatest of all time. All the time. And I remember my amazement that you hadn't played this one because you love the 64 ones. You played Majora's Mask. You played Ocarina of Time.
Dude, when I found Ocarina of Time, that blew my mind. I had never known about Zelda games to that point, and it was like, this is the coolest thing ever. It's like it's probably the first open world game I had ever played up to that.
Yeah, you could just run across the fields and all that. It was amazing,
there's technically a order that you have to do things in.
Yeah, but they block you up with items.
But you can really just run around and go wherever, and that just was amazing.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I just think to play these games for the first time again, same thing you hear people say it about movies. If I could watch this the first time again, just to have that experience, love it. So This game was obviously, I know it's a sunship.
I'm sorry, I was just thinking of things in my head that aren't good the first time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like what is the best the first time and what's not. That's an interesting list.
Yeah. That's for another time.
Some things get better as time goes on.
So obviously, this game was developed and published by Nintendo. Go figure, right? Major IP. Nobody would know that. It is the third game in the Zelda franchise.
I know there's one on the NES.
Yep, we have the original for the NES, gold cartridge and all. Yeah, there was a Zelda 2 that also came out for the regular Nintendo, but it was like a side scroller. Very different kind of game. Yeah, it's not. It didn't receive
trash.
Well, no, yeah, it's okay. I think it was really difficult, and it just didn't quite play as well. There's like people that really like it. And I think mostly, especially people who grew up with it. Like, there's always that bit of nostalgia. But this game is where it really just like
they upped their.
Oh yeah. I got things to talk about this game. It was released in Japan November of 1991 and came to North America in April of 92. So it didn't take too long for them to come overseas. There was a re-release port on the Game Boy December 2002. And then since then, it's really come out on pretty much almost every Nintendo console. It's came out on, like, you could buy a virtual console for the Wii, the Wii U, the 3DS. And now you can play it on the Switch Online, the expansion where you can play all the Super Nintendo games. Yep, they added that. That was one of the first games they added. That's how like of a staple this game is in the history of Nintendo at this point.
We need this Zelda game and Mario, right?
Right.
Those are the first two.
You know, it's funny when it was such a commercial success when it first released in Japan. It topped the charts. Famitsu is a gaming magazine that's in Japan. So it topped their sales charts in November and December, and then it became the best-selling 1991 release. So it came out the last 2 months of the year, became the best-selling game of that year in 2 months. So that's like how much they just loved it over there. In the United States, though, it only became the third best-selling game of 1992.
Okay.
Which sounds funny because the games that beat it were Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Street Fighter 2. And I'm not trying to downplay these games.
America loves Street Fighter.
They are good games. Yeah. Are they better than Zelda? Hell no. They're not. I can't
believe he just said that.
Nope. Sonic the Hedgehog, good.
You love Sonic the Hedgehog.
I do. I have mixed feelings about Sonic the Hedgehog.
Really? I thought you liked him.
I love the old game. There's certain games I really like. I like the character. I've really enjoyed the recent live-action movies. I feel like I've just been let down by Sonic games so often at this point that it just kind of taints the experience a little bit.
Aww.
Yeah, there's so many times I got excited for something and it just wasn't that good.
Oh my gosh, you look like a little kid that's like, Christmas kind of sucked.
Yeah. But sometimes I wonder how much I really liked the original Sonic games was because I didn't have a Sega Genesis growing up.
Yeah.
And then getting to play it was something new. It was a new platform. It was interesting.
Yeah, I have very little experience with those at all.
But yeah, so one of the cool things about Zelda here, it stayed in Nintendo Power's top games list for like years and years and years. I think it won the best console game 5 consecutive years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, 5 years in a row, Nintendo Power's like, this is the best game. And that was up until the point they finally retired the SNES. Like when that happened, they're like, okay, we gotta pick something else now. So because it had also sold more than 1 million copies, Nintendo was doing this thing called like the Player's Choice or Nintendo Select.
Yeah.
So they would re-release a game with that little gold flag on it for cheaper.
Okay.
So like when games first came out, they were $60.
I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the best games would be cheaper.
Yeah, they come out
after they'd been out for like a year.
Yeah, a year or two, and then they'd sell them for cheaper because like, okay, we made a bunch of money on it. We want more people to play it, which was a really cool thing I think they did because a lot of times these games, everybody should have a chance to play it. And not everybody can afford a new game. I mean, I certainly couldn't back in the day.
No.
You know? And I thought that was just really cool.
I think even back then, new games were like $60 a piece.
Yeah, they absolutely were.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
That's one of those unique things. Like, people get so mad because, like, oh, they don't sell the full game anymore. You got to get DLC now and all this stuff. But honestly, they've kept the price point for video games at $60 for a long time. Like, we're just now starting
since the early 90s.
Yeah, I think just the last like few years, they've like 70 might be the regular price point sometimes, or like they add the special editions, which cost more. Because it costs more to make games. They have a lot more people, and to be honest, like, we do sell a lot more games than we used to. But I think people forget that, like, hey, when you were a kid, it was $60 a game, even back then
for an N64 game.
You know, and the fact that they kept it at that price point for how long they did is actually insanely impressive.
Yeah.
And you know, most of the time DLC comes out, if you really love the game, you're gonna get it because you want more, right? And you don't have to buy a full new game. You pay $10, $20 at most usually. You know?
And I guess, like you said, that's if you really love it and you want more.
Yeah,
if you buy it and play it and you're like, meh.
Yeah, I think about like Monster Hunter Iceborne. That was a big expansion. I believe that one was $30, but the amount of monsters they've added and end game content they added was so much. It's like, okay, like, I get a whole nother Monster Hunter game that's added on to what I have.
Right.
And then I just kind of wanted to go over some awards that they won over the years. They've won Best Game of the Year, Best Video Game Sequel. Nintendo Power gave it the best graphics and sound, which I agree. This is one of the best music, best sound effects in a game for a Super Nintendo game at the time. Like, it's impressive. They won Best Game of All Time with between three different publications, and three more publications, different ones, gave them the runner-up to Best Game of All Time. And then there's two publications that gave it Best Game of the Generation.
Oh, wow.
Which I kind of, that actually is a very interesting way to put it, because I kind of feel like it was like a certain era of games. And this was definitely one of those top dogs. Like, it was up there. You know, anybody who's played it was like, yeah, I enjoyed it. Did I beat it? No, maybe not. It took me till I got older before I finally beat it. But it is just it's such an important point in my video game history if I think about it.
Yeah.
You know, that's how good this is. It really is an amazing game. So when we got to this game, they went back to the top-down view like it was in the original game. Like I said, Zelda 2 went side-scrolly, so they came back from that. But there's also a lot of these mechanics and concepts that are in future Zeldas that originated from this one.
That'll be kind of fun for me to go back and see.
Yeah, so like, just for example, like the heart pieces were in there. The hook shot became a thing that was in this game. Even the Master Sword originated from this game.
All right.
And they definitely made an improvement between the original game, where you can swing in an arc instead of just poke your sword. which is
the original's kind of hard.
Yeah, that kills me whenever I go back and play the original. And even like the multi-level dungeons in this game, sometimes you gotta fall through a hole to go back to another lower floor, or you know, and yeah, that added a lot of complexity to dungeons instead of it just being, you know, a bunch of different blocks next to each other.
Yes.
Like, that makes it
multi-level.
Yeah, it adds a lot of literal depth, literal depth to the game. Also, the existence of two parallel worlds. There's a light world and a dark world.
That started in this one?
That started in this one.
Okay.
This was the first one that did it. I think originally the Dark World was actually like corrupted by Ganon. It was the Sacred World before. But an interesting thought that I found out of when they made this game to save on space, the Dark World is essentially just the Light World.
The same thing.
They just overlaid a different tile set, and that helped them save space on the cartridge, which is also interesting because normal Super Nintendo games at the time had 512 kilobytes of storage. But for this game, they upped it to 1 megabyte, which sounds so small in the scheme of things, but they doubled it for this game to fit as much as they did in it. And they started working on this in like 1988. So they were working on it. Oh my
gosh.
Yeah.
Really?
So in 88 is when they started work on this. And in 91 is when it came out in Japan. Yeah, when they were originally making it, they were talking about making it like a party of characters. You're going to have like a human elf boy and a magical girl and like an archer or something. Okay. Like they wanted, but they kind of condensed it all. There was also like a lot of religious themes in it when it was in Japan, and when it came over to America, they're like, okay, we gotta tone this down, because if you translated the original title in Japanese, it comes out to Triforce of the Gods.
Oh,
the language of Hylian is all these different characters that you can't read, but they had like symbols of a vulture and Egyptian symbols in there that were related to God and celestial and all this stuff. And like the big bad, his first form was, they called him a wizard stateside, but he was a priest on their side.
Okay.
So like America's like, we gotta, let's ease this out. We get a little worried. People get a little upset if you like say the bad guy says he's sent from heaven, or, you know, like stuff like that.
Dang, that's kind of a bummer. That sounds pretty cool.
It's still really good. Like,
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's funny that those things bothered people so much, because nowadays we got some wayward stuff if you think about it.
Yeah.
And also a lot of the music you hear throughout the series repeated over and over started in this game. The original overture that starts in the original Zelda, that, you know, they reused that in a lot of things, but Zelda's Lullaby, the theme, Ganondorf's theme, the royal family castle theme, Kakariko Village's theme, and even the fairy cave. Dum, 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 do, 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 do. Yeah, like started in this game.
Oh, wow.
And so I think that's really cool that like this one really set the core of the series going forward for so long. Like it set down a format, it set down the musical tone. Like there's so much that started with this game that's carried over in every Zelda since, that it's just, it brings back that nostalgia when you play these games. It just is that feel good. It's like we were talking like about
a real part of the history.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. It makes me think, I know there's these Hyrule Historia books that'll talk about like, hey, maybe this is how the timeline for the Zelda games go. And there's ones that talk about like interesting facts about how Zelda was made. And it's like, oh man, I really should look those up and get those sometimes, because you and I both love Zelda, and I think we would both find that very, very interesting. There's also a fun little Easter egg. Nintendo Power held a contest where you had to like take a photo with a special enemy and rare enemy in the Final Fantasy game, if you could find it. And this person, as a prize, got to appear in a game. It's this game.
Okay.
Yep. So, but here's the thing. There's a hidden room in the game, and the guy's name was Chris Houlihan. And he gets, like, you read it, it says, hey, my name's Chris Houlihan. This is my top secret room. Keep it between us. There's like a bunch of rupees in there and stuff.
Yeah.
And what it was like, if the game didn't understand where you were supposed to go from the current screen, it would put you in this room. It was like you basically almost caused like an error or a glitch. The game a little bit. Yeah, I think there's like 5 ways that people know how to get in this room. Okay. But it wasn't until the 2000s, when the internet started getting really big, that people even knew that this room existed. I certainly didn't.
That's cool.
But it was this fun Easter egg that was just like hidden in there for years and years and years, that only if your buddy told you, if they even figured out how they got there
on accident.
Yeah,
in the first place.
Exactly. But I think it's just funny, like, hey, we're going to put you in this game as a crash prevention screen so the game doesn't fail.
You're going to be trying to walk into every wall.
Right? It's so interesting to think about that, you know, like, hey, this is just a safety feature, but you get some money because you caused this to happen, you know, in game.
That's neat.
Yeah, I'm just going to talk about kind of how I remember it, how I feel it. This game is very much about exploring, kind of in the way you remember Ocarina of Time. Like, yeah, are there certain areas you can't go to yet because you need a certain item or an ability, right? And this game is very much like that, you know, top-down perspective, but it really feels good. Like, if you can figure out how to get somewhere, you can get there. And especially once you start learning how to travel between the dark world and light world, it opens up even more. Like, it is so fun exploring in this game. And there you start to learn what to look out for, like certain cracks in the walls, or like a certain bush. Like, if I cut this, there's a hole underneath. Like, there's all these things where it's like, just try cutting everything, hitting everything, using your hook shot. You never know what's going to happen. And there's just so many fun things to find. And I very recently replayed it because of we were watching someone play a randomizer mod.
Yes.
Which is pretty interesting because this game was really popular in the speedrunner community. Mm-hmm. I think at a time it was like number 4 top most played speedrunner game. And the randomizer mod became popular to add another facet. Hey, you're really good at this game. How about if you don't know exactly where anything is, time to play the game and see how fast you can beat it.
Makes things tricky.
Yeah, it can be really
wild. It was fun to watch that.
Yeah, because like you go and it's like, okay, I know what's in here. He opens it up and it's like, oh, I just got the level 4 master sword for no reason. Okay, like out of nowhere, out of a box.
Then he had a run where it was like everything he opened for a while
just
was just
money.
Ruby,
money.
I want an item.
And like in this game, it is. I think the mod is set up so that no matter what,
you can move forward.
But you got to like remember where the chests are you're open. And I know someone else also made a mod so you can like see where chests are that you haven't opened. Otherwise, like if you missed one in a dungeon after you thought you cleared a dungeon,
it can literally make or break you.
Yeah, you'll never know, right? Oh my gosh. But I just like, I have so many memories. I remember the intro to this game very, very well because it's a very linear intro. And then like after that happens, all of a sudden you're out in the world. Where do you go? Like, you're supposed to get these certain items. I think there are 3 dungeons where you got to get pendants from. Okay. Well, you can essentially tackle them in the order you want to. Yeah, as long as you can get there. Usually how this game works is you go into that dungeon. Guess what? The item you need to get further in the dungeon is in that dungeon. Mm-hmm. And it just plays so very well that way. Because like you start exploring and you realize you're getting stuck in areas and you're like, what do I need? Oh, open that big sweet treasure box in the middle. I got a bow and arrow. I can shoot eyeballs. I got a hook shot. I can hit that post from across the way and go across. I got a boomerang, whatever you find. And it really just, you want to go into a dungeon. Like it makes you want to experience it, even though it might be tough, because what's the item I'm going to get in there that's going to help open up so many secret areas that I've come across.
Yeah.
And the map is pretty well laid out. Like you can kind of get lost in it sometimes, but you can always pop up that nice overview map and it's like, oh, okay, I'm just over here. This is how I get back. Mm-hmm. I've never felt like, I think when I first played it, I had a couple times where I felt like I got stuck, but I think it was more of like, I wanted to go this way and I couldn't yet.
I think it's pretty normal to get stuck in a Zelda game from time to time. Mm-hmm. Majora's Mask. I put that game
one,
down for a year because I was in a temple and I could not figure out what the next move was.
Yeah.
And I tried and tried. And then finally I was like, I don't know how to do it. And I didn't play it for a long time. One day I was like, I'm going to just load it up, kind of screw around because I missed the game. I didn't get to finish it. And I really was like going through it well.
So creative.
I had the Goron mask. That's what it was. I was in that area and I loaded it up. And I saw it like right away. Well, I got to do this. And I'm serious. It had been like a year since I mean, sometimes you just got to walk away and then you see it.
I say that all the time. Sometimes I'm beating my head against a puzzle or a challenge. And it's like, okay, I just need to take a break and come back to it. And 9 times out of 10, you come back after a day or a couple days, or even like later, like you stop in the morning and you come back at night, then it makes more sense, or you're able to actually get into it. Because like once you start getting frustrated, it's like you're limiting yourself at that point, right?
I would say Zelda games have like formed the way that I play games so much.
Yeah.
Because those were like the big ones for me.
Yep.
The way of knowing to like leave it and walk away. The way that I figure out, okay, I can't get further in this area, try going to a different area. The way that I interact with the environment around me in every game that I play now.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it really has kind of shaped how I approach things in the first place. So I can see this going really well for me. I shouldn't have a problem figuring this out.
I think there might be some frustrating moments, but that honestly is, like you said, like that's going to happen in any other Zelda game. That happens sometimes, but you can always eventually figure the way out.
Yeah.
And like I said, take a break, come back at it the next day. It'll be better. Very much so.
Usually you're so addicted.
And it's just worth it to play for the music. You're traveling around the map. Every place you go has got its own sound to it. Like it just is like, it's feel good in a game cartridge. That's what I feel like to me. It just so much, so is. I'm really excited to have you play it because like I said, I forgot that you just don't have any Super Nintendo experience. And it's like, she loves Zelda. And this is like the big start of it.
It's like the first episode in this saga.
Yeah. I always think of the original Zelda for the regular Nintendo as like, hey, this is like the prequel. This is the warm up. Like,
I made this. What do you think?
They did so many important things. And like even Breath in the Wild took some bits from it of like, hey, you can go anywhere you can go at that, like very much so. This game is a little more segmented and like, hey, you're stuck. You got to find something to get past here. But there's still so much freedom for you at the same time. It is the start of so many core concepts and the music. If you love Zelda, this is the one. If you haven't played it,
right,
this is the one you should try. Not the original Zelda, which I'm not trying to knock it down too much. Still a good game. And if it wasn't for that one, we wouldn't have this one for the Super Nintendo. But Super Nintendo Link to the Past, this is the one every Zelda fan should play. I 100% believe. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? How excited are you?
Like a 9 out of 10. I'm pretty excited. I mean, it's a Zelda game. I know I'm going to like it. I'm pretty stoked. So I'm going to be playing it on the Switch then, basically?
Yeah, the Switch. Okay. Yep. So it's
that's
right
nice.
there.
That's convenient.
Yeah,
that was the other reason why I didn't
Switch.
Get further in Portal was because we have a child in our house that commandeers the television sometimes.
Yeah, the Star Wars, the Skywalker saga came out on Xbox Game Pass, and I downloaded it for him, and he has been hooked until he beat all the episodes. Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to be honest, it's the best Lego Star Wars game that I've seen, for sure.
It was worth it when he told me, Mom, do you understand that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father? That's his father. Like, the realization hit him of the storyline, and he was just, it was like he was telling me the best tea he had ever heard, and he was shocked and in awe, and it was great. I loved it. And I was like, yeah, dude, isn't that wild? Yeah. He's evil now.
It's funny that this game got him interested in the story.
Because
he wanted to play from episode 1, because he's got to play from the beginning. And I remember him, to me, was like, Dad, Anakin's getting mean and he's turning evil. What's happening? Like, and he's all like, he was sad about it. And he's watched
the movies,
yeah. But he was only ever interested in lightsabers, blasters, and pod races, you know. And
let's be honest, when we were his age, we weren't really into the story either. I know I sure wasn't.
Oh,
I was watching it for Harrison Ford when I was his age.
I mean, I was 5 and I would watch one of those Star Wars movies every day. The original trilogy. I loved the story. I loved the lightsabers. And yeah, I think the lightsabers and the blasters and the cool future thing was selling it for me. but it was like I enjoyed the story too, and I could quote those movies by heart. You know.
Oh man.
It was bad. I was addicted. Fan. But we better move on so you can play this sweet, sweet Zelda game.
Woo!
We will get some time and we will come back. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome back. We've had some time with this classic Zelda game, and we're ready to hear how you truly feel about it.
Oh, it's a classic, all right. So I got started in this game, and I was a little frustrated right off the bat, but I kind of knew where it was coming from because it's a Zelda game, and you're hoofing it around everywhere, and you're slow, and you have no items, and you can't do anything, and you see all this stuff that you know you're going to be able to do, but you can't do it now, and you got to push through just to get somewhere, and it's hard because it's time consuming trying to go through different areas. God, just trying to learn the map on this one. This map is all messed up. It is crazy.
I understand what you're getting at because it feels like, I just got to go one area over, and then for some reason you can't go through that way. And that can be frustrating.
Going one area over means like trekking the other way, go north, go south, go around the world 3 times, and then you get there. Like you have to take such a long way around to get to anything in this game.
It's not that bad.
No, it is.
I do understand how frustrating it is. Like it's funny because I have to say, like sometimes there's just this like memory I've had. I've played this game. I played this map a lot over the years, right? And so to me, it's like, okay, I don't go that way. I just know I can just go there. And I have to remember, like, this is your first time you're experiencing this fresh.
Yeah.
And it's tough. And I always really enjoy this when I watch you play a game, especially one from my past. I kind of get this. I remember my first impressions better when I watch you play and I see how you react to things. Sure. I'm like, you know what? Actually, I did get kind of frustrated with the map the first time I played because you're trying to get somewhere and it's not always the direct route. But I mean, that's Zelda in general. I mean, you always you go up the mountain. Well, you can't go on this path. You got to go through the mountain cave or something, something wild, right?
That's usually how they start out.
Yeah,
It's always time consuming. You got to put in the work to get anywhere. But I was just having a hard time playing this game. And you mentioned at one point that since I haven't played SNES games, you're like, they're a little harder than regular Nintendo games. Like they're different. Because I was even having trouble just cutting down bushes, for God's sakes. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm playing it on the Switch, but you watched me. I showed you. Like, I'm slicing away and nothing's happening. And you yelled at me and said, stop using the joystick. Use the D-pad. And I'm like, nah, I got this nice Switch. I'm using my joystick. I was being stubborn about it. If you use the D-pad, it works better.
It does.
That's what it's for.
You just got to think of it.
It's so habit to go for the joystick.
A lot of these old games, it's very, essentially grid-based. Even though you can move halfway between the grids, you got to think of it like as squares, and that helps. But like I said, you use the joystick, and it's a lot harder to stay in that like grid line that you're going to hit that bush or you're going to hit that enemy.
Grid lines in this game are crap. Like you can't hit anything, but everything can hit you wherever you are all the time.
I will say this, going back, it does feel like things can hit you easier than you can hit them. And part of that is just the fact that running into you hurts you, and that
everything hurts you in this game. This game, it's surprising how challenging it is. Especially because, like, you brought up that a lot of things that we have in Zelda games, this is where a lot of things started. A lot of these enemies, a lot of the music, a lot of the things that you do, a lot of the stories, it all
that basic, hey, even Ocarina of Time. 3 dungeons, get the Master Sword. Yeah. Then you go through all the other dungeons.
This is the exoskeleton for what we have.
Yeah, this is what it was built off of.
It is really cool to go back and play it and see where it started, because they took a lot of these good things. They did a lot of good things and they ran with it, and it turned into what we love today. But it's freaking hard. This game's freaking hard.
It is hard. 100%. It is hard. It is a hard game. And that's like I said, like you just said, like sometimes these old games were just hard. It's like when you get to the boss and you die, you start back at the beginning of the dungeon. Are all the unlocked doors unlocked? Yes.
Yeah.
Are all your treasure chests open? Yes. So you can run straight to the boss.
That you broke open, all that's
it's back.
Now.
They're filled up with
they're
the
not
goodies.
filled up.
Aren't they? Oh, no, not the hearts. Yeah.
Or wait, are they?
I think they're filled up.
I panic.
Yeah. I freaking out. Oh, yeah. It's so fun to see the beginning, you know?
No, I don't. I don't have the past love for this game. So for me, I'm like, ugh. Like, it was, I mean, it wasn't that it was bad, but I don't have an attachment to this game myself.
Yeah.
So it's the first time, it's all new. So it doesn't like thrill me like it probably thrills you.
I think for you, that would be more, I mean, I think Majora's Mask, even more than Ocarina of Time, I think you have more of a connection with.
Those two, I really love Ocarina of Time a lot. Like, I think overall that one may be just better, but I really do have a special place for Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
And
well, it's a very unique one, honestly.
It is. And I think that's what I like about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of just uniqueness to it. It's fun to enjoy on many different levels.
There was a few things that made it a little bit easier for you in this game. Not many, but I did notice right away you can collect arrows. Even you don't have to get a quiver first.
No.
Which is different.
Or a bomb bag.
Yeah, or a bomb bag. That was the other thing. It actually surprised me when I picked up a bomb. Mm-hmm. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I got a bomb. What? I have it now. Yeah, I know. It is kind of funny.
Can I use this? Really?
Oh, yeah.
So, I started off and I tried to go for the Pendant of Courage right away. That's the first one that it tells you to go for. And I was like, I'm just going to listen to the game because I don't know where to go or what's what. Or that's another... Oh, man.
Well, you kept not checking the map.
I did check the map lots of times. Oh, I wish everyone could see how you're grinning. I checked the map so much. Okay,
before we move forward, I was not here for every time she played, but for this moment, she was like, "Where the hell do I go?" And I was like,
that was
nope.
The first
Hold
night.
on, let me tell the story. And I'm like, "Have you checked the map? What map?"
Yeah, if I don't know, I have
the one
a
that
map.
the game told you that you had, and then you jam through it, so you don't even see the full map. You just see the local area map. I see the X for half a second, and I was like, "Rose, you didn't even stop on the map so I could show you where you're going." And then you just totally ignored me and just kept walking the wrong way because you wanted to, I was like, Rose, you died and you're like, I don't even know if I'm going the right way. You didn't check the map like I told you to.
Well, I was fighting against wanting to explore and see what I could get to, what's where, because that's how I learned the map.
Yeah.
You got to just start walking. And in some games, you have blocking. Well, in this game too. I mean, you're going to get blocked off if you're not supposed to go to an area, but you got to walk around and look at everything. You got to check things out. You got to mess with stuff. You got to see what you can find. That's what I was doing.
That is part of the Zelda game, and that's why I didn't say anything at first. It was like a good minute where I was like, and then after you complained about not knowing where to go when you died, I was like, you didn't check the map. I didn't say anything.
Well, I kind of expected it to be more blocked off than what it was at that point.
Yeah, they actually give you a lot to explore at
far
first.
I kept going, and that's why when I died, I was like, I don't even know if I'm going the right way. This is crap.
Yeah, it ain't like Ocarina of Time where you got Hyrule Field, and it's basically a big O. There's Lon Lon Ranch in the center, and then all the places you can go are essentially on the outside of it, right? This is not like that.
Hyrule Field is kind of large, but you can't get deep into anything that you're not supposed to at the time. So you can explore, you can take the time and explore Hyrule Field, which is good, but that's kind of what I was looking for. I was looking for the stop signs, and I wasn't getting any. It's like, hey, as long as you keep going, and then you get like right up to something, and then it's like, oh, you can't pass this, or you can't. I mean, I was just surprised at how far this game lets you run around right away. Just boom, right away.
Yeah, I can understand why. Yeah.
So anyway, I was going for that first pendant.
Yep, the first of the 3 cool pendant.
Gosh, trying to get through the dungeon and everything, I'm trying to get used to the gameplay. It's hard. I'm spoiled. Like, Ocarina of Time was my first Zelda game. So going back to the blocky grid-like controls of trying to do things and interact with stuff was just a little bit frustrating for me. And I kind of had to get past that, like, the first couple times. You actually had to finish that boss for me because I was so frustrated from dying over and over again and starting at the beginning of this dungeon. I finally just like handed it to you and was like, do it. I've done it all and pretty much gotten there, but I'm not doing it again.
Yeah.
I was tired of beating my head against a wall with that
and
one.
I do get that. And I mean, that happens. It like we said, this isn't exactly an easy game and you're jumping back into it. And even, I'm going to say this, even if you did play with the D-pad, the Switch D-pad isn't that great. It doesn't feel as good as like the SNES D-pad. It doesn't
feel as good. No. And I have kind of thought that in my head.
Yeah.
And you've never actually said that to me before, and I've never actually admitted that to you before too. Because I do really like the Switch, but it isn't perfect.
I love a lot of it. It kind of, part of me, it's like I watch you play these games, old games with the joystick, and I get why, because you had the original Nintendo and then the 64, right?
Yeah, that N64 is just bred into my blood.
Yeah. And I get that, but like to me, it's like that classic D-pad feel, and it's like when we played Goof Troop. I love that the SNES controller is one of my favorite controllers.
The D-pad on that is probably the nicest out of all controllers. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, it does. It's a little smoother than the regular NES D-pad.
I do think they did do like SNES controllers that connect to your Switch before these emulators. They actually made controller like Nintendo did.
I'm sure they did. They'll sell you their toenails if they can.
Oh man, I'm tempted to get one of those just to have one, just to get the better experience.
I had a nail artist put a controller on my toenail. You want to buy it? Yeah. That's Nintendo.
All right, I'll let you keep going.
Back to our story. The second pendant I got with a lot less tears, and I did that on my own. You weren't even there to see it.
No.
But I was a little proud of myself. But at this point, I'm like, man, the controls are just tough on this game. And it's the little things. It's the fact that I can't slice into a pot and break it. I have to pick it up with my hands and hold onto it and throw it. And like you said, the grid space, you have to line up just right. So there's so many times when I'm just trying to grab this pot so I can throw it at an enemy and I can't, or I just need a heart like really bad right now, and you can't just slice it with your sword. And I'm so spoiled from playing all other Zelda games.
Yeah.
I want to roll and smash into a wall full of pots and I can't.
I mean, my personal feelings are like, this is like for the start of what a lot of Zeldas pick up on and improve on in many different ways. They really did this game so good that it still stands on its own for me. But it is also like, there's like quality of life improvements going forward in the Zelda games that just make it more fun and more enjoyable. Like we said, this game is tough and it can be frustrating. But I like Dark Souls, so it's kind of my jam.
I know. This wasn't that bad.
No, it's not that bad. Not even close.
Around this time, I started like playing it because I want to get further. Like I can feel the drive creeping in about this time that I'm playing it.
First time I heard that.
I know. I kept it a secret because I didn't want you to get excited about it. Because it was still like kind of hate/like playing it all mixed in, like a frenemy game. Like I kind of fucking hate you sometimes, but I still really like you and think you're cool. Sometimes, oh gosh, I forgot the old man's name, but like there's a guy, he tells you where to go and what to get. He's like, go to Lake Helia, go to the desert, and you can look at the map, but I mean, you're just using your best guess. I mean, it's somewhat obvious, but it's still kind of not where in that space is the right space.
Man, that's very indicative of old games. They'll give you like a vaguish hint and you got to figure it out. But that was kind of the fun about the old games. Cause like you would talk to your buddies, like they would find something you didn't find. And there's a really cool game that came out recently that's inspired by Zelda called Tunic that does this. Like, it's a game mechanic of you discovering things about the game that's really well done. I can highly suggest that if you like Zelda games like this.
I think it has a little fox and a Robin
cute
Hood
little fox.
Outfit.
And
that's what I know
it's
about
hard,
the game.
but it's this thing where if you beat the game and you start a new game, there's so many things you know how to do that you can do right from the beginning that you didn't know when you start the game the first time. And that's what a lot of these old games were. You're going around and discovering it for yourself and talking to people about it. And that was just a cool experience.
I thought about that while I was playing it. This game is really all about trying again and again and again, hoping to get a little bit further. And a lot about collaboration. Like, you hope to God your buddy also has this and that he's figured it out.
Yeah.
Because that is how it was back then. I mean, Super Mario 3, when we'd play that, if my sister learned a secret from somebody else, we'd have to try it. Or, this is a trick to do this or that. I mean, that is how we did things back then. And you played it so much and you knew these games so much by heart, just automatically, that's how you know where to go. That's how you know what to do. It is probably so buried deep in your brain. You ever think about that? Oh man,
yeah. There's certain things that I've picked up that it's kind of amazing that I still remember them. I still know it. Like, it's kind of cool in a way because it was so exciting the first time. You know, to be able to replay things the first time again sometimes, I think.
No, it's not that great. Trust me. I do
it a lot. Oh, that's funny.
So then it's time for me to get the third pendant, and I got to try to get up Death Mountain. And oh my God.
Yeah.
Bruh, if you guys thought Death Mountain sucked in other Zelda games, Death Mountain in this game is atrocious.
The worst.
It's the worst.
You go through that cave in the dark, and then you get on the mountain, and it's like, oh, hey, guess what? Boulders.
Just randomly falling. They're always going to hit you. You're just trying to get up to any place at all, and you're just dying over and over. And then you spawn back at the beginning where you could
go in the old man's little abode, and it's like, why do you live here? Why do you live? There's death rocks constantly falling down, and you go in there and be like, okay, dude, I got hit by a rock immediately. Heal me up again. Talk to him. Go back outside. Yeah. Nope, I got hit. No, let's go and get healed up again. Try again.
So crazy.
So
I finally make it up this freaking mountain, and you've left, like, you're asleep. I'm playing this on my own. I get to the top of this mountain and I see this little square that's shiny. And I'm like, ooh, what does this do? Is it a teleporter?
Yeah.
So I stood on it.
Oh, man, I missed this.
Then I really regretted all my choices. Because I had no idea what this was. And the whole world changes. And there's like, you're a pink fluffy bunny now. And you can't do anything. No button does any moves. You can't get down from the mountain. And you meet these two, like, oh gosh.
Monsters?
Monsters. That's the only way to describe them.
Slime, I think.
One looks like a slime. I can't remember
one's
what
like a goblin looking thing. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we got transformed into this and we can't transform back without the moon pearl. And I'm like, I don't have a freaking moon pearl. I didn't know there was a moon pearl in this game.
Now you know.
Yeah. The only way to get back is to have that. I am crawling over this mountain for about 30 minutes, going back and forth the same ways I already have 10, 15, 20 times, trying to figure out anything, something. Oh my God, what did I do? Do I shut it off? You can't even die. Like, there's nothing to hurt you.
Nope.
There's nowhere to go. And I finally just was like, I gotta cheat. I gotta Google it. I gotta look it up on YouTube. I was carrying around the mirror the whole time, and you just look at the mirror and then you go back to normal.
Yep.
Easy fix.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Mass disappointment. You would have enjoyed watching me struggle with that so much.
I probably would have been nice once you were like, how the hell do I get out of here? I'm like, oh, well, your mirror.
Didn't even think about trying it.
Yep. It's you went to Dark World and you learned that you can't hold your form in Dark World.
So thanks to the Russian guy on YouTube that gave me that little video on how to look at my mirror. and stop being a pink bunny. But it also showed me how to get a piece of heart quick, so that was cool.
Yeah.
Shout out. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to look up, at least get some heart pieces.
Yeah. Finally made it to the Tower of Hera. Mm-hmm. Oh, God. I made it through that thing, but that was a push, man.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Honestly, the dungeons in this game can be hard. It can be really difficult. The bosses vary, I would say. Certain ones are easier than others.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd say ones are easier than others. I think it's like most Zelda game bosses. If you can figure out the gimmick or the best way to go about it, it gets easier.
Yeah, I
but they're
guess.
all like, for first time doing it, they're hard. Mm-hmm. The big worm that wiggles around and pushes you off the ledge.
Buzzy worm.
Yeah, like I had really struggled with that in this tower, and I died over and over and over again. And finally, one time, it just like all clicked, and I went through easy peasy. And I don't know. I was about ready to give up. Like
Isn't
two
that a
times
good
before
feeling
that.
though? Like all of a sudden it's like it makes sense and you're like blazing through it. Like, yeah, it was a tough slog the first few times, but guess what? Then all of a sudden you roll through there and you're like, you get to the boss full hearts and you're like, why was I struggling so hard? But it's because you learn, like you got used to what you need to do.
Oh,
you
it's not getting to the boss with full hearts. It's getting that stupid worm to stop pushing me off the ledge.
Yeah,
that's the hard part. And then having to climb back up like 2-3 floors to do it all over again.
I know, he knocks you in a hole. Oh, guess I gotta go back up and fight him.
Wouldn't be so bad, except you have to redo all your hits. Like any hit that you've made against him doesn't count anymore.
He's the annoying one because of that. Like it's like, if you kill me, you kill me. Okay, at least I put up a good fight. But no, you're just gonna be like, nah, I don't want to do this right now, and I'm gonna knock you down a few floors. Oh, god damn it, worm. Yeah, I vividly remember struggling against that back in the day, like one of the first few times I played it.
That worm.
Yeah. So, what are you feeling then at the end of all this? Like you did beat it. You did get the Master Sword.
Yeah, I did. And then I was like, okay, I'm done now.
Okay.
I'm good with this.
You did go to fight.
You got to go back
Ganon before it's Ganon.
Yeah, you got to go back to the castle, and there's a wizard, and I was like, I want to keep going. I want to get as far as I can in this game.
Yep.
It's been a busy couple weeks. We've had holidays, and I kind of played it once and was like, oh, I need a break from that.
Yeah.
But when I picked back up, like I was being really consistent.
I did notice you like improving for sure, like getting used to how the controls work and how you go about it. I think what threw you off the most is when you run into new kinds of enemies. Like then it's like, oh my god, what do I do? And it's like you said, this game is very much you throwing yourself at this game, learning it until you get it. Yeah, and that is very much this game. But it's funny that you said I got the Master Sword and I was done. I think I told you what, I probably played this game like 10, 12 times or something like that. I started new games, right?
Yeah.
And I've beaten it 2 or 3 times. Only 2 or 3 times.
Once you explained that to me, I felt a lot better because I played like 2 times and I started panicking because it's slow going and I wasn't getting anywhere fast.
Yeah.
And you're just not going to if you don't know this game. If you know it in your mind by heart, you're going to power through. We've watched a guy play through that has played this game way too much in his life. And it's amazing how fast he was doing it. I didn't watch the whole playthrough. I'm just
like, but yeah, he knows where he's going. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen clips of some dude playing it and he's just rocking it. So I went into it thinking, this won't take me long. I love Zelda games. I'm good at Zelda games. And then it was just like wall, another wall. And when you told me this, that you only beat it 2 times, that made me feel a lot better.
Yeah. I vividly remember there's times I played this game, especially the first, like early on when I played it, that I got the Master Sword. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like I did it. And I had fun running around with the Master Sword, right? And like a lot of the other times I get the Master Sword, I get to Dark World, and then like I do a couple dungeons and I had stopped at something like, cause it gets like, it gets hard. Some of those dungeons are even harder than the ones you ran into. But it's like you said, like, I've thrown my whole self at this game from the beginning multiple times to the point where now, like, it's easier. Like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing. Do I always remember the dungeon exactly? The first 3 I remember pretty well, or like I get through it pretty easy. And then after that, it starts getting tricky, but it still is like, okay, I have some vague memory of this. Like, I need to do this, I think, but I have to remember how to, how do I burn this tree root, or how do I, get around this dungeon? Because some of them have interesting mechanics. So I think that you getting to the Master Sword, I think that's a good point to get to the first time you did it.
Well, the next thing was to go back to the castle to save Zelda, which I was willing to do. But when I got to the castle, I couldn't figure out where to go because the only thing that I hadn't already seen was a door with lasers going across it. Yeah. And I was like, it literally stopped me in my tracks overnight. And the next day I'm like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go or how I get in here. There's something I'm missing. And you're like, slice it with your freaking Master Sword. That's what you got that for. And the look on my face.
Yeah, it was priceless. It was worth, like, that face you made alone when I was like, you slice it with your sword, and the face you made, that made it worth it to have you play this game just for that face. Like, it was wonderful.
Sadness and disappointment.
Well, you were just like, oh my God, it was that easy. Why didn't I think of that? And then I think right after that, I told you, like, I've done that before in this very game where I overcomplicated it. I'm used to playing other Zeldas where, hey, if you need to get through an area, you're supposed to have like a special item, right? And usually getting the Master Sword is not that item. But in this case, it was. Like, that was the whole point you went and got it. And like, I think after the amount of time you played, it's easy to forget that, like, oh, this is why I was going to get the Master Sword in the first place. Like, there's not like a quest log you can go back and reread to remind yourself,
Never crossed my mind. Never considered it for a second. It's just like, there's got to be something somewhere.
I need some sort of orb, or I don't know, some gems.
There's that stinking moon pearl. What does this do?
What about that freaking moon pearl they were talking about? Oh.
So that was my experience, getting turned into a pink fluffy bunny, not knowing to cut lasers with my sword.
But you did get to fight the wizard, and like, I think
I know that gimmick. I died, of course, because gosh, you're trying to this game.
Yeah, you got to learn the boss. Yeah.
No, I know the gimmick. It's the same gimmick that they all have.
Yeah,
where you
slice the energy ball back. Yep.
That's not hard. What's hard is you have like, half of a heart the whole freaking game practically.
Yeah.
You're kind of stingy with hearts in this game.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of hearts to pick up.
It's very much...
Almost everything is a single rupee. Mm-hmm. And I am so sick of looking at green rupees right now. I don't want them. I don't need them. Stop giving me rupees.
When I play through now, it's like, okay, how many bottles can I get? Do I have the items I need to get another bottle? And I always like dungeon, fill up on fairies before a dungeon, like every time.
If I could remember where they were, I'd probably do that, but...
Yeah, I mean, that helps.
I need labels on this map.
Yeah, be able to put map markers.
That'd be cool.
You can do that in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Yep. So what kind of rating would you give it after all that you've experienced?
Gosh, I haven't thought about it at all for this game.
Well, how about this? Before you give me your personal rating, like what kind of rating do you think you would give it based on what you experienced? Because you're very good at like, hey, this is how I feel about it, but like you also are willing to give credit where credit is due, even if you don't personally enjoy it. You didn't enjoy it as much.
Well, I did try to get as far as I could in the amount of time I had.
Yeah.
Maybe am I halfway? I should be, right?
Yeah, essentially. Yep. You're about to hit the main turn in the halfway. I hate giving ratings on games that I haven't finished, but it's just not gonna be possible to finish unfortunately.
Everything.
Yep.
6.5.
Okay. I'll take that.
It's very good for an older game in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. It does help you out in some spots. as complicated as some things are, it is like simplistic. Like once you learn what things do, the rules stick. They don't change it.
Yeah, they don't really mix it up.
You know how
to
interact with the world for the most part. Music, of course, is fantastic. Like you mentioned, that's where a lot of the good stuff came from. It. So that's nice.
I never get tired of playing this game with sound. Like there's some games you go back to and it's like, we'll listen to some music, right? Not this one. This one I could listen to all day.
Unless your wife is running around with one heart.
Yeah, that's the worst part. Oh, please just give me the option to turn off that noise. That's all I want. I out of all the accessibility features we could have, please let me turn off the low heart noise. It's reminding you
that you're low on health.
Yeah, trust me, I know. I haven't forgotten. Oh my goodness. Oh.
The enemies are fun in some of the areas. I mean, there were some definitely that you recognize, but there's some weird ones that I've never seen before. Like when I went out in the desert and there's these weird sand, like muck-shaped monsters jiggling their way at me. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And they hurt you really bad.
Yep.
And then you can like run into a cactus and it injures you. Like,
oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yep.
As frustrating as all that stuff is to play with, like, it is still really well thought out, and it's cool that it's there, and everything has a purpose, has a reason. They put a lot into the scenery too. I mean, for a 16-bit game.
Yeah, there's a lot to look at. And even like you said, there's a lot you can explore even right away after that first dungeon.
It's like I said, overwhelmingly open in the beginning, you know?
I think that it's a good game to experience at least once. I think that it might not be for everybody. Like I would suggest everybody to try it. You don't have to beat this game. Like I understand that it's a tough sell. And that's coming from me. I like, you know, like I said, I like to play Dark Souls and try to beat those. They're hard. This game's not that hard, but it is tough. And you do have to throw yourself at it. And that's not for everybody, right? But just to even experience, like, this is a very top-of-the-line SNES game, for sure.
Yeah, I would say it has a slow burn, like a good slow...
Yeah, you know what? I agree with that.
I got hit with that where, you know, the first couple times I was kind of frustrated, like, oh man, what did I get into? And then after that, like I said, it started that I could feel the heat deep down in my gut.
Yeah, yeah.
Belly.
I don't know. I can't, to me, this game, definitely one of my favorites. And I would love to come back to it and beat it again, you know, a couple years down the road, do it again. Just because that's how much I enjoy this. And I'm glad you got to experience it. I'm glad you enjoy it.
I actually am too. I mean, it is really cool to see how similar it is and yet to see some of the differences.
Yeah.
And like what they did leave behind. And it kind of makes you wonder why. Like, why didn't you take this with you too? I know. Some of the items are just so wildly different than what we get in the later Zelda games.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, even the Magic Mirror and the Moon Pearl. And then, like, you have to go get a special book just to read statues and signs.
Yeah, special signs. You literally
got to pull out this freaking book.
Yeah, you have to put it in your item slot. It's not passive.
It's like, oh my gosh.
But then the boots are equipped all the time, and then you just have a button press. Why couldn't the book just be automatic? Why are you doing this?
I don't know, but it's cool because it's different. Right?
Yeah.
It's cool to see it. You know, not everything's gonna work, but some things worked pretty dang well.
Oh my gosh, I just remembered I saw the advertising for this game in Japan.
Oh, really?
When it first came out. And it's like this whole song and dance number. It is wild. It's super funny and hilarious. Like if I saw this as a kid, I probably would have bought the game on this ad just because of how, like as a kid, it looked so fun. Everything's exciting. I got to show you this after we record this immediately. You got to see this because it's amazing. And I can't believe I never knew about it till just today. I found out about it.
Where should people look it up if they want to?
YouTube. Someone on TikTok showed me it. And so Google search, if you search Japanese Link to the Past commercial, I guess that's what they call them. Oh my God, I haven't watched regular TV in so long. But is there anything else you wanted to add before we close out?
I don't think so. I think I'm pretty set done with this game, kind of excited to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I was a little happy to be like, this is a good halfway point to stop. And then I've been hamming out on Nobody Saves the World again.
Yeah, you keep going back to it. But like I said, I'm never going to make you feel bad for that because I just started God of War. I got it on PC. So I haven't played this remake yet. And I haven't had this good a start to a game. I can't remember when. Like, I've had games hook me. I've had games be fun, but like the narrative of this game immediately got me, and I'm interested and I'm excited to play more. And I understand why people loved it so much. I know I'm late to the game, but
super late.
Yeah, but hey, game's not about when you enjoy them. It's just the fact that you enjoyed it. So I want to say thank you to Brother Ray for our caricatures.
Yay.
Woo!
Thank
we love
you.
it. And thank you to our listeners. We really appreciate you. We see you growing bit by bit, and it honestly just gives us great joy to know people are enjoying listening to this.
I hope other people are trying out some new stuff, new games. I hope you get interested.
Yeah, that's kind of
something that we talk about.
You know, like I said, get a little bit different perspective from two different people, and you know, who knows? It might sound good to you, or it might sound like, hey, maybe this one isn't the one. But we're just happy you're listening. Feel free to leave a comment. We have a question on Spotify here, or leave a rate and review on Apple Podcast, and we'll give you a shout out if you do.
If you're feeling brave, you can go on that Twitter world and see what's... Try to leave a comment there, too.
Yeah, you can tweet at us at Co-ople Mode, as if Twitter doesn't burn to the ground before then.
That trash bin that's on fire over there.
I think that's it. So, I'm Matt.
And I'm Rose.
And this has been Co-ople Mode. You keep gaming with your bestie. Ta-ta!